Back in 2015, Rockstar made a glorious decision that involved adding Benny's original motorworks to GTA 5. The Lowriders DLC brought 6 Lowriders into the game, which forever changed our expectations for customization on new vehicles. However, even today, there's only 15 Lowriders and just 31 Benny's vehicles available in the entire game. And I think it's high time that we expanded upon that list. So here are 25 Benny's vehicles that Rockstar should add to GTA 5. To start, I think we should go over some vehicles that should be converted into Lowriders, some that I think should be converted and others that the community has been asking for years. Starting with the Emperor, which is one of the only cars of its style that didn't originally get the Benny's treatment. Looking at the Voodoo, Chino, Virgo Classic, Peyote, and Manana, the Emperor was always meant to be a part of this group, even if it wouldn't be much different. Another vehicle that came as a huge surprise when it didn't have lowrider hydraulics was the Tahoma Coupe, which came with the Drug Wars DLC and was supposed to be based on Jesse's 1982 Monte Carlo in Breaking Bad, which had hydraulics. However, Rockstar decided that would be too accurate and never allowed the car this option, which is kinda sad. The Greenwood, however, has received lots of attention in previous years, only being released in 2022 and receiving a new variant in 2024. But I think this vehicle would also benefit from having the extended customization and rim options that Benny's has to offer. So making this a lowrider just seems like a no-brainer. Similarly to the Tahoma, the Tulip M100 would be a pretty sick looking lowrider, slammed to the ground with some sick pinstriping designs. I'd definitely be buying it. Now, the Picador might not be people's first thoughts when it comes to lowriders, but the Slam Truck and Yosemite Rancher are the only trucks in Benny's. And although some people might not consider the Picador to be a true truck, I think it'd make a pretty unique lowrider, just bouncing down the street in a pickup truck. Alongside the unique Picador, the Regina would just be funny, but also very stylish, with the right customizations and removal of the wood paneling. Imagine this having endless options and hydraulics. I think it could become quite popular, especially if the performance was tweaked just a little bit. Vans typically come across as quite boring and basic, but the Moonbeam and Minivan did have their custom variants, and with their massive speaker setups and slick paint jobs, would it be too much to ask for another vehicle in that lineup? The Vivnite would be a great modern alternative to the low-riding Vans lineup. Although it would be quite expensive, I think it could be a good hit. A year later, in early 2016, Benny decided to expand his abilities by allowing us to make race car versions of the Banshee and the Sultan. Now, some people may say this was just an early version of how Special works, but these Benny versions did have lots more customization and a slightly different model on the vehicle, which is why the Bullet would make a great Benny's car. Taking the Bullet into Benny's could allow the player to convert it into the Bullet GTS or maybe even the Bullet Retro Custom, which would make it a closer equivalent to its real-life Ford GT Mark 40, allowing the Bullet to reach its final form without the addition of a new vehicle. This would also allow the previously removed Bullet to be purchasable again on in-game websites. Now, being the most unique Benny's car available, the Faction Custom Donk is the only Donk in the entire game, and many people have seemingly forgotten about this car. Even though it's a blast to drive around the game, it's pretty decent at rock crawling just because of its massive clearance, and it looks pretty nice too. Well, I think it's about time that we added more Donks to the game. And some people might not like that idea, but bear with me. The Chino Custom Donk. Now, there isn't much to say about the Donks in game. We can just kind of look at this and imagine it with bigger wheels and a higher lift with some hydraulic ability. The Impaler LX is a staple for Donks, being based on a 70s Impala, which was one of the most iconic cars to be modified into a Donk version, and it even has its roots in the origin of the term. This, like any other Donk, would be a tad wonky to some, but that's the way others like it. Similarly, the Impaler SZ would just be a newer version of this, and would also fit quite well. Especially having the added customization of a regular Benny's car, perhaps having a custom and a custom Donk version similar to the Faction. During the Import-Export DLC, we saw the addition of our first Benny's motorcycles with the FCR 1000 and the Diabolus. And although not much would change, let's just throw a new Vader custom into the mix. Sure, it won't be anything special, but it feels like the most fitting bike to join this lineup and make it a trio. Later in 2020, Rockstar decided to add the Yosemite and the Yuga to Benny's, but not for low-riding race versions. Instead, these were part of a new business venture, an off-road venture. So here are 3 other vehicles that could make good off-road Benny's vehicles, starting with the Tempesta. Now I mentioned this car in a previous video, but in this case, we would just make the Tempesta 4x4 based on the Huracan Storado, rather than making it its own vehicle entirely. Now this would likely destroy the off-roads class, so we might have to disable it for races, but who really cares anyway, right? Rockstar doesn't seem to. Heading back to an older vehicle, the Stanier would be a unique off-roader, and I've even seen one of these in real life. Benny could even have an old police livery with broken lights on top to have a Stanier LE 4x4. It's just an idea. Lastly, the 190Z could have a 190Z 4x4 based on the 1971 Datsun 240Z Safari Rally. This would be great for sports classics fans, rally fans, and off-road fans. Perhaps we could even get a 300R version. Now, despite many people in the community having a heavy hatred towards this type of vehicle, it was the most voted for in my community poll. And it's Widebody Kits. First off, if these were added, everyone agrees that Rockstar would have to push the tires out with the Widebody Kits, which is where they've dropped the ball so many times before. Some cars I could see having a widebody conversion would include the Stratum, which would be a fun sedan and a good addition to the existing widebody lineup, with the 10F, Brioso 300, and Sentinel Classic. Now imagine a drift widebody, that'd be even better. A Zion Classic widebody would be a great car to store alongside the Sentinel Classic widebody, and I could see this car looking clean with a nice widebody setup through Benny's. Now to move along to some more modern cars that have been highly requested by that section of the community that likes these vehicles. The Jester RR, Dominator GT, and Coquette D10 could all have a nice widebody setup. The Jester could even be a race version of the car, or potentially have a time attack build instead of a widebody, making it faster, grippier, and sharper. The Dominator GT is one of the lesser used Dominators, so this could make the car a bit more popular, while still making it a tad more stylish. Plus, with a wider stance, you can just hit more pedestrians. And finally, a Coquette D10 widebody would just make the car appear beefier and wouldn't actually need any dramatic speed or performance changes, just the cosmetics. Oh, yeah, and a lot of people have expressed interest in a widebody Buffalo STX, which would also be a sick muscle car to see this chunkier yet smooth addition built right into it. The Weevil Custom was Benny's first attempt to make a rat rod style car, but what if it wasn't the last? Let's take the rat truck and turn it into another crazy drag rat rod build like one of these. We'll downgrade the turning and grip while increasing top speed to make this car fast, yet balanced. This could also see a lot of very unique modification options, which would be great for a vehicle like this. Though I'm not sure what we'd call it aside from the rat truck drag or just the rat truck custom. So that covers every type of Benny's conversion available, yet we've only covered 22 vehicles, and I promised you 25. So here's a new idea, a limo conversion. Take a car into Benny's and give us highly customizable limos, unlike the Patriot Stretch and its camo bunker liveries, or the regular Stretch, which is just a Pegasus vehicle. Starting with the NS Super Diamond, this would allow the car to be purchasable again like the Bullet, while giving us a high-end limo for luxury. Being a Rolls Royce, this limo could even come with gold chrome trim, and even some champagne like in the Luxor Deluxe. If you want something newer and a bit more spacious, then buy the Cavalcade XL Stretch. This would be a limo for your boss's boss, or the top-of-the-line mob leader, and could make for some fantastic role-play scenarios. And finally, though this isn't likely seen much outside of Texas or Alberta where I'm from, it could be a fun alternative as a limo for those country folk in Sandy Shores. A Bison Stretch. And yes, these exist in real life. So what cars do you want added to Benny's, or what new styles or conversions would you want to see if we got one final Benny's DLC before GTA 6?